Plaintiff Leticia Hernandez says she and the defendant were high school friends who always wanted to live together after graduation. However, Leticia had a baby when she was 19, so their plans were postponed for a few years, but they eventually moved in together, and it was a total disaster. Leticia is suing for unpaid rent because the defendant moved out before their lease expired. Defendant Mandy Serdinsky says the reason she moved out is because she discovered that Leticia had sex with Mandy's boyfriend. And when she confronted Leticia, Mandy claimed she never denied it, so she felt forced to leave. Mandy's countersuing for a cell phone bill.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
Well, me and Mandy and I have been best friends since our freshman year of high school. You know, we talked about when we graduated, you know, we wanted to move out and, you know, do big things, do the roommate thing. And unfortunately, my plans changed. I got pregnant when I was 19. I had my son. It wasn't working out with my son's father, so I moved back home with my parents. Me and Mandy continued to talk about moving out together. She insisted that we moved out. When we sat down and we discussed, and I told her, this ruins relationships between friends, and I don't want that to happen between us.
You changed your mind later.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did change my mind. I also discussed with Mandy, and I told her repeatedly that it is going to be extremely difficult living with someone and their child.
This was before moving in with her.
Yes, this was before we actually moved in together.
So why did you?
I wanted to be a good friend, and Mandy was one of my best friends.
So you're doing it out of charity. That means you didn't want to, you're just doing it to be a good friend, which is charity.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
Charity case.
It's not true.
Well, she says she only did it because you're a good friend. She really didn't want to.
That's kind of how I feel about it, because she...
Okay, but like I was saying...
Let her finish. Let her speak.
She was rushing me to move out because she no longer wanted to live at her parents' house.
That is not true.
Quiet,
she insisted.
ma'am.
She
Quiet.
insisted.
And rushing you to move out of your place?
Yeah, out of my... We were talking about moving out together for how many years, and then we decided to finally do it. I mean, she makes it sound like I made her move out
like
with me.
she didn't want to do it.
If she didn't want to move, she shouldn't have signed a lease with me.
Go ahead, ma'am.
We moved in together.
How much was the agreement on paying?
It was $297.50 a piece.
All right.
So
When
we
did
finally
you move
moved
in again?
We moved in March 1st.
All
we
right.
signed the lease together. Of this year.
That was short. Go ahead.
Right, and exactly my point.
You didn't want to move in for real.
Right.
How was it living with her?
It wasn't as, you know, I knew how it was going to be. And, you know,
When did the problem start?
About 2 weeks after we moved in.
What type of problem?
Well, for one instance, Mandy came home at 3 o'clock in the morning one morning after she went out. She brought some random guy home with one of her girlfriends. They were being loud and obnoxious at 3 o'clock in the morning. They were drinking, you know, of course, you know, you're drunk, you're talking loud.
Oh, okay.
So my son and I fell asleep on the couch. They came in, they were being loud. I asked them, I said, can you please be quiet? My son and I are sleeping. So they giggled a little bit, went in Mandy's room. Next morning, I mean, to make it even worse, she wakes up in the morning and comes to me and says, Leticia, I had to look through my phone this morning because I didn't remember this guy's name that I brought home. How do I get him out?
True.
Okay.
Like I was saying,
What else?
how do I get him out of the room?
Give me another instance.
Another instance is right before we moved in together, she was seeing this guy. He stole $200 from her off her coffee table in her room.
Not true.
And she brought him over one day, I believe it was after the bar, and she wakes up the next morning and comes to me and says 2 items are missing from my room. And that was the end of that. And I said, well, Mandy, out of respect for me, you, and my son, can you stop bringing this guy around, please? This is the second time he has stole from you.
Did she bring him around again?
Yes.
And she slept with him 2 weeks later.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is not true, Your Honor. What was said, and he even admitted, and obviously he's not here today to back that up, he said that we had slept together and then admitted to her maybe 2 weeks later that it wasn't true.
Were you all ever alone together?
We were alone for, I want to say a couple hours. It was one night after we did go out. Mandy fell asleep. Me and him were sitting up talking.
You used to go out with them?
No.
The guy
this-
who
Yes,
you,
yes.
go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
The
we
guy
did
who
go out
was a
with them.
known thief had ripped you off before. You're
Right.
complaining that she brought him over. Come to find out, you went out with him and you all came back together.
The only reason was because Mandy.
Whatever the reason, ma'am, you
Mandy went
painted a
to
totally
sleep.
different picture. You just painted me a totally different picture than you're now admitting to. Let me hear from you, ma'am.
The main reason that I moved out of the apartment was because I was uncomfortable with the situation.
What situation?
My boyfriend and I at the time, we were fighting. He sends me a text message. He said that he slept with her. I asked her. She didn't deny it, and it made me uncomfortable. I mean, how
That is
can I?
untrue. I did deny it.
How can I live with someone that I can't trust?
All right, so what happened when she denied it? Did you all discuss it? Because what you're trying to allege is that you were what they call constructively evicted, meaning that you all were incapable of living together and that it's her fault. So tell me, what proof do you have that she did this? What are you saying
I don't
she
have
did
any
wrong?
proof that she did, but this is
Very
what I
good.
was told,
Then
and it was
I can't
uncomfortable.
automatically believe you
Okay.
because she says she didn't. How does she owe you for rent?
On April 18th, she moved the rest of her belongings out of the apartment, so she did not want to pay, or she did not find anybody else to replace her to pay her half of her rent. So
How about that guy?
Yeah, that's a good point. And he should have had all the money in the world. Much as he stole. Go ahead.
So she did not want to pay her half of her rent. She said she didn't feel she had to. So the only
That's not
choice
true.
I had was, and she was still on her lease, is to take her to court. And the best I can do was, make her pay her half of the rent.
I just like to say that, she acts as if I just up and left one day. We talked about me leaving. I offered to stay. I offered to stay for a couple months until she found a roommate or got
That
on
is
her
untrue.
feet.
She
Hold on.
continued.
Even
Thank you.
though you couldn't live with her, that's
As
why
a
you
friend.
decided. Please let me finish.
Sure.
Even though you couldn't live with her because it would be a problem, you decided that 2 months you would endure that problem?
That wasn't what I wanted to do, but she was my friend for 7 years. I'm not just going to leave her in a bad situation.
Okay. Well, you did, right?
A very bad situation.
Well,
Yeah, okay. Then why were you being buddies with me for a couple weeks after and text messaging and
Very
talking?
untrue. We did not speak. I was working a third shift job. I had to pick up a second job just to pay rent and bills.
And I called
she
you and you were
called me
at
at
that
the bar
job.
one night.
Saying what?
She called me at the bar one night saying, "Oh, I miss you. I love you. I miss you."
What was your response?
And she was like, "Tell me you miss me. Tell me you love me." I said,
Oh, you're full of it.
I miss you, and
Okay.
I miss
You're
you."
full of it.
And you haven't gotten a roommate yet?
No, I have not.
Have you looked?
Yes, I have.
Where?
Actually, me and my brother have been discussing, because he's graduating from high school,
Mm-hmm.
so we've been discussing him moving in.
So you haven't really looked. You're waiting on your brother. Your counterclaim for $148 for a cell phone bill is for what?
I put a cell phone under my name for her. I get an employee plan through work. It's $20 a month. Just as we had stopped talking, we talked a little bit after I moved out. She stopped talking to me. She sent me a text message. Quick question, did I go over on my bill? Something is high. I don't understand how you can run a $20 a month bill up to $147.50 without doing it intentionally.
All right, but whatever the case, it's in your name and she didn't pay her part. That's what you're suing her about.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am?
I did pay my past 2 previous bills on time. They were paid on time.
Mm-hmm.
She did not give me the chance to see my bill or give me the chance to
You
pay
have
it.
the bill today?
I do.
it
And
to her.
I have the text message that came from her phone on
We
May
just need to see the
6th.
bill. Her defense is I haven't seen the bill.
Okay.
So once she sees it, I'm sure she's going to agree to pay.
Right. I
right.
did have the phone, and my past 2 bills were
Now
on
you
time.
see the bill. All right, ma'am, I'm going to grant you 3 months, which is the reasonable amount of time in which you have to get a new roommate. $148 is your judgment. Her only defense to paying the cell phone is she hadn't seen it. She's seen it today, and she agrees she owes. Judgment for the plaintiff once again, and you as well. Have a good day.
I didn't sleep with her boyfriend. Plain and simple.
I don't believe her for a minute. That's why she's not my friend anymore.